team has very little to offer to the game itself. MOUZ hasn't really stepped up to the level that we've seen out of Track in previous weeks, and I think if they're going to deliver an upset today to Hurricane, and of course do all the other teams in Group A a big favour, MOUZ needs to show up big and show us what he's made of, why he's in Contenders, and why he can deliver.
One thing to know about British Hurricane as well, you've got yourself Funny Astro playing. This is a control map, and we'll see him on Hollywood if it goes to that map as well. But for the most part, he'll be taking a bench after Nepal, assuming we don't see Hollywood.
Do you think the Astro's an object and it's saying that's funny, or just he's called Astro and he's funny?
Maybe it's a case of him actually being a genuinely funny guy. I know he streams a lot. He can have quite a personality on there. I haven't tuned in enough to assess
Lucio is a massive laugh because you're running around booping everyone all day anyway.
When you're as mechanically gifted as Funny Astro, yeah, you're having a right laugh. But jumping onto the point itself, Fusion's going to lead the charge on that Reinhardt. He's been a very capable player for this roster, and he's been kind of like the core of this Hurricane roster throughout the entire season so far.
Lots of dancing around with Cloudy last week. This time he's matching up against Limit playing on the Rhine, and we've seen a good few scraps on the point like this before. In fact, last week it was a fight on the point itself, but that's a Disband have already been scared off.
Yeah, the triple tank and the Junkrat combination, Hurricane loved running this one, but Barbie and Track have already shut down the tanks as Barbie picks up a second kill onto Funny Astro, and that's Disband coming out swinging.
Some really, really good concussive mines being thrown in by Track there, just splitting the team in half and removing that front line, enables his team to be able to collapse in and bring down one of those, so as you could say, softer targets sat behind that rock-hard iron shield of the Reinhardt.
Going to take the high ground option this time, give a little bit more freedom for Kib to rain down those explosives on the Junkrat. Riptide already coming out from Track. That's a confined space. They need to be very careful to pull out very quickly into the back line. No one's killed it until Funny Astro shuts it down. No victims to the tire. Kib, he's actually used his one. I don't think anyone's got that yet. Is it running around somewhere? There's an Earth Shatter. Track's taken out by it. Fusions with the charge onto Limit. We'll shut him down. Here comes the Coalescence of the Funny Astro. And Fusions, that's a double kill with the Spotlight. Graviton Surge, pulling them together. That's a Disband. They're not able to catch up with it. MOUZ, he's got a Graviton of his own, but Kib and Bok, they've tracked through Insomniac and, of course, Barbecue.
A bit of a questionable shatter coming out of Limit when they knew that tire was on field. If they're trying to push forward and go for an engagement, that tire is live. It's super easy for Kib to go, oh, well, I guess I'll just throw this tire into the middle of all the aggressors and bring them down.
He's got 10 seconds to play with as well. Riptire, very good at stalling out or changing the pace of the game because there's that threat that exists. And yeah, you're good at tracking, you know what it is, you're going to do well at shutting it down. There's the Graviton Surge from MOUZ, pulling everyone together. Earth Shatter coming out from Fusions. Here's another Riptire from Track. Immediately into Craggy and Funny Astro, but Kib, he shut down Insomniac. Where's the rest of this fight going? That's Disband still fighting off the point with British Hurricane, and British Hurricane are in retreat, trying to get back to some semblance of control, but Fusions still holding his ground, but MOUZ, he's nearly at 90 charge. He's going to start cutting through that shield. It's Kib, range down from above. He's got a Riptire available. When they go and commit to this push, that's when he's going to change the pace of the game and let the Riptire roll.
So a bit of coordination comes into it as well. His team be saying to him, right, they're pushing through. Now is the time to go with this one and get it down. Surely now is the time he's sort of looking. He's got all this space up top and no one is near it.
Pull the cord, all aboard. Here we go, straight to the sky. And Track takes it out mid-air. And Kib will be answered by Barbecue. There's a Shatter. Gonna knock everything down. Limit's holding onto his, but he's unfortunately dead as Fusion gets it with the Flame Strike. Track shutting down Pocket with a concussion mine as MOUZ moving on to the point. Graviton Surge gonna hold him in place. There's a self-destruct on the point. It's not gonna be able to hit anything at the moment as they're still being cut through. Cracky taking out Track. There's a Graviton Surge pulling now British Hurricane together as that's a Disband get control of the point, but Cracky still cutting through. Limit been booped back into the wall. No charge for you. A bomb and a punch to the face to shut him down as Tri-Spear will feel the burn of the laser. And they're going to hide around the corner. Self-destruct buys a little bit more percentage for that to Disband, but it's not going to hold on this point.
So really weird for Hurricane there. They basically made the same mistake that Giganti did a couple of times last week where they popped off the Graviton, but there was no follow-up, no damage around because, of course, they'd lost Kib earlier on. So a bit of a questionable play by them. However, that's a Disband's follow-up. Poor Limit. He's being booped around all day long and just can't make anything work out for them. Eventually, they lose the fight out once again, and Hurricane holding strong at 80%. This is the final chance for that's a Disband to make an impact.
Another Riptire being used. Track going to lead the charge with that, but Kib's almost got his Sound Barrier found in Funny Astro if they want to use it. But Track going up high, over. He's forced British Hurricane back. They're well aware where it is.
Got it.
Premature detonation, but it bought enough time for that Disband to come in. Kib now got a Riptire of his own. It's in motion somewhere. Coalescence being used. Sound Barrier there. Graviton pull them all together. They're running straight at the lineup. Double kill for Kib as they shred through MOUZ and Limit. The British Hurricane, 95% and ticking. Last chance saloon for that to Disband. They're trying to pressure onto this map. but they're going to have to boot. And it's very stagnated. Earth Shatter should seal the deal. Overtime whittling down. A Diva mech to keep the fight a little bit longer, but it's inevitable. They're just drip feeding in players with no semblance of control. One more player to go down. Overtime ticket down. Limit charges through the point. Fusions keeps him off of it. Where is the final grass? There is none. British Hurricane take the first round.
Really, really good targeting there, catching out the 2 tanks from the side of That's a Disband with that Graviton Tire combo. Once they're gone, this kind of combination just falls apart. You have that triple tank lineup, and without the tanks to protect the Junkrat in the back line, you have nothing to bring to the party, so to speak. British Hurricane, quite decisive. That's a Disband, you got to give it to them. They did get a good percentage coming through on that point as well. So they've shown that kind of opportunity to upset that Jaws was talking about on the desk, saying that here, today, when the pressure is off, that's when they have the chance to perform at their best.
Absolutely. There is nothing for them to lose at this point. Why not throw everything at them? And we're going to see a similar strat to what we saw Singularity do. What we argued was a lesser team in the previous matchup, coming in with that Reaper and the triple tank combination.
This is the quad tank, I feel, of Shrine. Every single team is just kind of reverting back to this. Even if they don't play it themselves, they saw what happened last week with Angry Titans, and now it's like, oh, this is actually really good. Let's try and play it ourselves.
We're not on Sanctum, but we're still seeing British Hurricane run the triple DPS with Happy Cool onto the Sombra. And already, they're contesting over the point, but the sheer mass might win out this first point for them unless the kills start rolling in for Hurricane. Bunny Astro taking out Mouse as Craggy dances back onto the point. Health bar's going low for the Hurricane, but they've only got 1 kill and they're not able to gain the semblance of control they need. Hack onto Moira. No more healing for her apart from her left click, but she's going to go down anyway. It's Bunny Astro finding a double kill. He's so bloodthirsty, it's unreal as British Hurricane will capture the first point.
What did we say earlier on in that first series of the day, Tridd? The best way to get around a quad tank, or even in this case, you could say a 3.5 tank with that more lifesteal-based tank coming through on the Reaper, is you have these flanks set up, and when you're running triple DPS, what do you have? Tons and tons of flanks. You've got your main 3 coming through with the Winston and the 2 supports. You've got your 3 DPS. It's so hard for a tank comp to be able to react reflexively to what's going on.
1 DPS ult down. That's 1 kill. Cracky, he doesn't need the ult for a second. You've got Kib sitting on a Dragon Blade and Happy Cool with the EMP. They don't need to use it because they just roll over that to Disband in the first place. Gonna recall Craggy after escorting them back to their spawn room.
Going to be time to change things up for That's a Disband, I think. You know that they've got this comp figured out, and they're saying, guys, just keep on coming. We're loving all this ult charge you're giving to our DPS. And sure enough, Track going to switch away from the Reaper, try and deal with at least one of the DPS coming towards him with that McCree pick.
I think they're going to hit them hard as they come through the choke here. The EMP is available for Happy Cool behind him. Oh, he stunned it, cancelled the EMP. No one got affected by that, and they're able to fight. Actually, sorry, no, it wasn't quick enough. Getting flashbacks of AKM. But they're able to clear through the point regardless with the EMP team. Happy Cool getting a D-Mech, but ultimately they're going to push That's a Disband back.
It's that really cruel kind of kiting where a tank literally can't touch you because he's too slow on his own, and you can just basically kite him around as these hypermobile DPS coming through from Hurricane. This is the kind of smart play we like to see, this kind of thing that answers to quad tanks. Really excited to see if that becomes a factor in playoffs.
Well, we've seen a lot of quad tank from both groups, so who can deal with it better, who can clash against it? That's the question for the top 8. On the here and now, 80% for British Hurricane. A nice sticky onto Track, immediately shuts down DPS options. Earth Shatter dropping as Happy Cool goes for more clearance. Barbecue D-Mech, Sound Barrier coming in a fraction too late to save the mech. Might save someone else. EMP being used. Where did the shields get removed? Where are the kills to follow up? Fusions, Kib. They're answering it by taking out the tanks. 95% and ticking. That's a Disband, can't find a way in. Tri-Spear dashing for the point for some kind of stall. It's just not there. British Hurricane, they come out with a 1-0.
Kind of what we all expected stepping into this. Small flashes of brilliance, and That's a Disband, especially in the first round, but ultimately not enough to deal with the triple DPS coming out of Hurricane. You said it yourself, we see it on Sanctum a lot. Haven't really seen it on Shrine before, but they make it work and deal with that triple tank with the Reaper really well.
I got some bad news for you, Des, but more importantly for Team Giganti. Now that British Hurricane have won a map, they are guaranteed 4th place.
They're done.
So they cannot get that 3rd place. It was a very slight win condition for them. They had to get 4-0'd, but it's just not today, unfortunately. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring you the 2nd map of this final series. Welcome back to Overwatch Contenders Europe. We're into the second map of British Hurricane versus That's Disband. And British Hurricane leading the series 1-0, so everything's par for the course for them to potentially go ahead and take that first place finish.
And that's what everyone's thinking. And to be fair, back in week one, this is the kind of thing we expected. It was Giganti or Hurricane at the top, and it's very much so looking like with the way this series is going so far, Hurricane are destined towards that top spot. One thing we've seen over the last few weeks, though, is a number of times on the first control map, it doesn't always tell the full story of this series. So Hollywood is going to be the second map that we head into. That's when we can see That's a Disband potentially start causing an upset. Yeah,
British Hurricane maintain their perfect Nepal record, going 3-0 now with that final win. Speaking of records on Hollywood, we like to highlight Track. I think Jules did it on the desk, where Widowmaker, it's an exceptional pop-up performance, and he can have an exceptional individual performance. But for the team itself, they've played Hollywood 4 weeks in a row. They've only won 1 attempt on Hollywood. And British Hurricane, they've never been challenged to it. They've always gone to Numbani through their own choice or somebody else's.
So it's newbies versus less than desirable performances, you could say, here on Hollywood.
Potentially, if you wanted to be that blunt about it.
It sounds like many of the films that we see coming out of Hollywood, so to speak. However, for Hurricane, I had to slip it in there somewhere.
That's fine.
I'm curious to see what they come out with, because we see very often things like cafe holds coming through, where you take the Mercy and the Zen, stick a Junkrat or a Soldier in there. Your favourite, what was it, Juggernaut 76?
Juggernaut 76, or the Trash Compactor.
Or the Trash Compactor, that's the other big one. And for That's a Disband, well, they've got to find an answer to it. A couple of times it's been things like the Pharmacy coming through, it's been a Junkrat of their own, or sometimes literally just grabbing a full dive comp and going, right guys, we're going all the way to the back, let's just throw ourselves in.
British Hurricane opting to have a composition reminiscent of Nepal. They're going for the triple tank with Kip on the Junkrat yet again.
Why not? Because it works so well.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. There
Absolutely.
we go. That's pretty much the motto of Contenders at this point with compositional choices.
I like how between Group A and B in week one, we saw the teams had very different kind of strategies, where some would send themselves right up into the house here, you'd see, and then face off against Cafe from the high ground. Others sweep all the way behind the gate, up the stairs at the back, and just try and shut down the support.
The Giganti special.
The Giganti special, absolutely. Maybe Hurricane had taken some inspiration from their victory last week and thought, well, let's try and use that. They didn't play in Hollywood, but they would have studied Giganti and know exactly the kind of thing they like to play.
This is the first time we've seen them on Hollywood publicly in Contender season, so let's find out what they had in store if they were ever challenged to this map.
This comp coming out of Hurricane is a very aggressive forward holder. They don't really want Cafe with this. They want to fight. They've got this triple tank with the Junkrat. They want to face off against That's a Disband and just don't give them the space, because that's when they will win. They want to fight close and dirty.
But That's a Disband, they want space. They've got Track up in the skies with Kasaurus on the Mercy to pocket him. They're going to be looking to build up ult charge against those tanks. They don't care about Track though. They're just going to run straight past him and gun down Tri-Spear before he even has a chance to make himself known on the map. Nice protected bubble to keep him alive and move him across back to the safety of the team. Barbecue
Healer's gone.
Taking out Crusade, and Craggy going down as well, so missing a tank and a support as Track still in the sky. 57%. We've seen faster ult charges, but he's going to get it regardless as they move on to the point and start aggressing into Cafe. There we go, start building the ult charge. They're trapped inside, they need to find a way out. Which avenue they're going to take? Fusion's getting a hammer kill onto Limit. Pulse bomb from Mouse, beautiful as he recalls back onto the point. Capture point, 75% and ticking. It keeps going up and up and up and up. And where's the return from British Hurricane as they finally get themselves together on the map? Coalesce to try and take down Track. Barrage on top of him will rain down. Happy Cool's self-destruct. Takes him out of the sky. Kasaurus is going to bring Track back into the fray and head up to the heavens with him. 2-5 on the point. But it's looking like That's a Disband coming out with not the quickest take, but it's still a take.
Absolutely is. And Mouse, at the very start of all that, I had a few questions. A couple of times to be deliberating where he should be going next. Do I pull back and defend my supports? Do I go for the dive and finish off the supports of their team? Wasn't 100% sure, but as the fight kind of went on a bit, he seemed to find his groove and slip into things and start picking up the key kills onto guys like the Zen. But Track, we spoke about this Widow. This is where he can shine.
Kib's looking to try and find some kind of return, but ultimately Track's the only one with a notch in his rifle so far. You're going to try and take him out of the sky as he goes upwards, looking for someone to peek, but they're smart enough. They know where Kib is going to be. Track finally getting himself that second notch, and it's onto Kib. Funny Astro, he's there for the resurrection. Craggy, that's the difference maker coming in. That's something that Mal struggles to do, but he answers with a kill onto Craggy himself, but he's already taken out both the Widow and the Mercy after a resurrection. You got a Winston there with a Discord orb in your face. You're going to have to back off. While this has been going on, That's a Disband. They got in about halfway through this section.
Well, so far it's that aggression, and again, the angles that the Widowmaker can hold down just denies options away from the other side. Hurricane kind of having to maneuver their way in and out, but with Kib getting a return kill, that flips completely on its head.
And now he's having to run away from Barbie, who's entered into the saloon, forced him up into the high ground. Taking the shot, but it's not enough. Kasores resurrecting Track. There's a lot of contention happening around the back end of this map, and the payload's being ignored for the most part, while they try and get some semblance of a foothold. Track taking out Kip again. Happy Cool in the saloon, going one-on-one. Mano in mano with Barbecue, but a Discord Orb, that's turning into a bit of a 2v1. Some follow-up damage coming in from Fusions to gun them down with the lightning. But Barbie still alive, he got double healed. He's got the Orb of Harmony, and he's got the Pocket Mercy. So it's no surprise that he gets away, but Fusions taking out Track with the Primal Rage, dumping onto the back line. Tri-Spear, he's vulnerable, needs someone to shut him down. Tri-Spear can defend himself though. He's a bloodthirsty Zenyatta. He clears him out, but still very stagnated around the map.
Yeah, still a bit of a slower push, you could say, coming through for That's a Disband. Yes, they're finding themselves a few openings, but now that Kib is warming up with shots like that, it makes it so hard for Track to be able to control these key angles.
What's the kill count record with Track and Kib? I believe it's 2-2 right now.
I think it's 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2 on headshots against each other. No pun intended there, mate. But,
it wasn't actually a pun, literally. But
yeah, it always comes out. It's just the thing that happens when you try and say this when involving Track.
Okay?
We'll keep score. There we go. Craggy, he's got a Pulse Bomb, ready to go. Crusade with the Transcendence to shut down any obscenely aggressive action coming out from That's a Disband, but really, you've not got something that's going to, shall we say, have that pop and that instant damage that's going to get around it, other than the self-destruct that's about to come up for Barbecue. And Craggy throwing the Pulse Bomb out. Eaten straight away, so nice reaction from Barbie to shut that down, but we've seen the damage that Tracer can output without that Pulse Bomb, regardless of it being eaten or not. So they're still getting the payload in motion. The earnest is on British Hurricane to move back on and start contesting it. Otherwise, they're going to concede so much ground fighting skirmishes that ultimately result in nothing. Tri-Spear dropping Craggy, so that backline pressure been dropped. Kib up on the high ground, trying to take out Track, goes in for the shot. They both tag each other, but it's the headshot coming through for Kib that's the difference maker. Everyone flying on top of the saloon. And Happy Cool's about to get demeched, but he uses a self-destruct. His ultimatum to them drops down. Perfect timing to get the demech, forcing out another self-destruct, clearing the way. Mouse is taking out Craggy and Crusade, and the fight keeps on going on. They're so close to getting the capture. Kib being pressured. Mouse has to recall, looking for that headshot if he comes back for a second attempt. Finding something, misses one. The supports know where he is, so we'll have to back off.
And the ult comes through from the other side as well. So Track actually going down as he burnt the ult out, but at least his team get that vision.
Kib getting that swan song headshot onto Kasores, taking another dink over to Limit, but it's Craggy who finishes it off. D.Va still fighting it out. Barbecue getting demeched. Can't get that final shot, but dink onto Mouse. So one more support, and here's a terrible stagger going on to Barbecue. He's just dancing around. There's no environmental kill. They can't let him regroup to his team to keep him alive. Happy will finally shut him down, but well played on the stagger.
Quite funny, because sometimes you see teams leave the D.Va up and then go for the 6 versus 5.5 fight, as it were. In that case, the Barbecue, they were like, well, we'd rather not face the opportunity of this D.Va getting back into mech, so let's just not let it happen. Speaking of that mech, though, Barbecue isn't too far off the self-destruct, so if That's a Disband, maybe that's one of their big aggressive tools here, because this is going to be one of their final pushes, and they're only looking at a couple of ults being online.
I think the margin is definitely in favor of Kib. We're keeping a hold of these Widow Wars. Kasores feeling the burn as well, as Kib looking to reposition, find some more, and capitalize on the retreat from That's a Disband.
Yeah, Kib definitely, I think about 4-2 at the minute in terms of the trades going on with Track. And we said at the start of this series, if Track doesn't pop off, the team doesn't really deliver or perform. It feels this way with him being very much so suppressed that the team is struggling to make the plays they need to win this second point.
18 seconds on the clock, going through the interior into the streets. They need to touch that payload, they need to get it moving. They're not exposing themselves to the wrath of Kib by keeping themselves in those confined spaces. Now Kib has to reposition somewhere, but the fight is very much on the ground level. The shields are out to protect everyone. Craggy's on the back line. Self-destruct on the point to clear everything out. There's a jump in from Limits, but he doesn't land onto anyone. He's going to come back into the fight with the Primal Rage, knocking everyone around. Payload got some extra ground. D-Mech from the Happy Call, but he's pushed that big red button before he goes. No clearance. Kib taking out Track again. Crusade onto Kasores. And now they're fighting in the middle of a Transcendence. Tri-Spear, last remaining support ultimate for them on this push. Kib taking out Mouse again. Here's an answer Transcendence from Crusade. Happy Call taking out Limit. They stop That's a Disband before they can go to the final section of Hollywood.
Quite funny when you think about it, because again, harking back to Track, we said that second stage of the map would be one of his more proficient points, should we say, where he can really shine and show us what he's made of and get his team through to the third point. But Kib steps up, shows us what he's made of, which is quite a nice change, because often when you speak about this team, we talk about Craggy and say, this guy's the big Tracer player, he's the guy to watch out for, and then we go and talk about the supports and the tanks. Poor Kib, sometimes it feels like he's a bit undervalued, you might say, but in this round especially, he's just shown you exactly what he's made of and why this Hurricane lineup is so complete.
That's the problem you have with like Happy calling your roster as well. You're not just contending with your other DPS, you're contending with your Flex, who plays a lot of DPS. Credit to Track, though. When it came to the Widow duels, he came out strong. And unfortunately, that's very reminiscent of That's a Disband as a whole. They seem to come in with such fire and aggression, and eventually teams just seem to get a foothold of him and put that fire out relatively close into the map.
There's always a bit more urgency about other teams is probably how it feels. I spoke a bit about Miles at the start of their first point fight where he looked a bit indecisive about where to go once he managed to get a kill. It was like, cool, who's next? Okay, back and go and pick up the Tracer on our back line. Okay, they blinked away. Back forward and try and bring down the Zenyatta. It wasn't as clean and clinical as we see from other Tracers, and that's where I had a few question marks around him previously. Just got to see the guys pull together now and really hold down this first point. They're going to go for that Junkrat, the trash compactor that you so love talking about, Tridd.
Trash compactor, not quite. They don't. It's usually a 2-2-2 composition. Oh, he's talking about on the line of the defense. Mate. Sorry, my mistake. Getting the rosters mixed up. Limit and Barbecue, yeah, they can pull off the trash compactor if they want to. They just need to hide away, wait until the dive comes in. But British Hurricane aren't running dive. So how do you compact something that is basically an immovable object of triple tank?
We've seen a few teams do this in previous weeks where when you're playing into this Junkrat playing inside Cafe, you essentially initially look like you're going to dive and just force them into the back of Cafe and then drop immediately back to the point. So you're not playing to that Junkrat's win conditions of forcing you all into a tight space and spamming you with rockets and concussion mines. What you're actually doing is taking the point ground itself and forcing the defensive side to come to you, because that's not what this composition wants. It wants to be able to play defensively inside the Cafe.
They're not even using Cafe, they're using the terrace. There's a big dive coming in. British Hurricane still able to fend it off. Track's nearly got an ultimate already.
He got about 60%.
Peppering the entire British Hurricane lineup. He gets a kill onto Craggy, so that's going to stem the flow of British Hurricane for now. But they're kind of trapped in a difficult place here. They can't really go around. They could easily cut off the reinforcements.
Trapped between no man's land and a team that wants to kill you. Tough call, you got to say, but Track's going to bring out his ultimate here. See who he can catch to even further damage this comp. It's
well,
Funny
Astro goes down. Craggy switched over to the Tracer because I think he would have difficulty on the Zarya getting into that like formation and regrouping with the team. So he goes, I don't even need to regroup. I'll just play Tracer, get some distractions going, allow you to rebuild. And Funny Astro, there's no obstacle this guy can't jump over on Lucio. So I'm pretty sure he can regroup with not much difficulty. They're trying to find a way back onto the point. They've really... They've gone to point C instead of point B. They're going through Cafe.
With two people.
They're going to dislodge them though, but the terrace is where they need to dislodge the fight. You can already see Crusade and Craggy taking out Kasoras and Limit, and Craggy looking for that D-Mech. It's really just Barbecue dancing around. Going to get knocked out of that one. Who is left alive? I believe it's just Track who's going to run around somewhere onto the point. There, he drops a few grenades, but other than that, his impact's not felt. So what looked like chaos has now been calmed, and British Hurricane take control of the point.
It felt really funny because for a while I thought, oh, That's a Disband here can potentially just divide into two, go into the 3-3, have some of you watch the side door, some of you watch Cafe, and you basically cut Hurricane in half, and they're forced to do some weird pincer dive onto you, which is going to be less optimal than normal. But just taking over the Cafe with just the Moira and the Ryan, dislodging 3 members of That's a Disband, that's the kind of area That's a Disband are going to lose the fight for, and rightly so. Hurricane cleaned them out incredibly quickly.
Track going on to the Widowmaker this time. Maybe it was the defensive edge that pulled it out for Kip. We're not going to know. Is he going to stay on the Junkrat for now? He's so close to winning a Riptile. Why waste it? That's going to come out any second now. Craggy still on the Tracer, getting in the face, disrupting Track. That's a level of disruption that Kip didn't really have. Earth Shatter immediately takes out Mouse, but no more because of the bubble coming out from Limit. Here's the Riptile, but Funny Astro takes out Kasoras first. Where's it going? Track finds Craggy. There's the Riptile on the Tri-Spear. So both the supports down at the moment for the side of That's a Disband. This should be a quick push for British Hurricane.
Just picking them off one by one by one by one, and Craggy getting onto Track in the backline meant he had no time to get any key shots down to try and halt the advance coming out of Hurricane. They've got 3 minutes 45 to push with here and not too far to go, Tridd.
With the high ground position though, Tracer doesn't have the verticality, so surely you need to be aware of where the Tracer's going to come from. So you're either going to crawl up the lift next to you or run across the bridge. Either way, you have a little bit of an early warning system if you have some defense there. Oh. Pulse Bomb, not going to find anyone. Track taking out Fusions, Miles taking out Kid, but Track still looking for more. No one else. They push back British Hurricane and goes back to his original perch.
Find themselves in a pretty good angle. I think they were too worried about dealing with that Pulse Bomb that came through. The Trap managed to get himself on Bank's roof and just get a couple of key shots down into the backline. With 2 members falling, Hurricane get forced to reset. But keep an eye on their ult line. They used 2 in that final fight, so a bit questionable, you might say, but they've got 4 to play with.
Do you know what Craggy's got to play with? he's got himself a pulse bomb, and I'm pretty sure he's going to try and find the way up high or answer the dive coming out from that to Disband. To Limit, jumping in with that primal rage, going to knock him around. Pulse bomb for the D-Mech, so we know how Craggy likes to play with those tank eater abilities. And now the mech's going to be used with the self-destruct. There's another one coming out into the middle of the saloon. No kill to be found from that one, but Craggy now chasing down Mouse. He's going for the 1v1. He ends it with a tap to the head. No bullets needed on that one. Craggy gonna just try and fight against the Transcendence that's healing up the team. And Tri-Spear, he could stare at Craggy and knew that he was gonna be chased down the second that ended. Immediately repeated, but will get shut down.
That's what I spoke about, the difference between these kind of Tracer players. Is Craggy, as soon as he gets a kill on Tracer, he's like, right, straight away, where's their support? They're next on the menu. Jumps onto them, there's little to do. Mouse is back here trying to delay it at least a bit. Final fight here, Triss.
He was able to delay it just enough for some bodies to jump in. It wasn't really a final fight, more of a final flail for that to Disband. Hurricane going to go 2-0 in this series.
Expected result at halftime. I think it's pretty fair to say. Hurricane looking good. Again, a bit of fight back going through from that to Disband, but nothing that's really going to upset or scare them, I feel. Just playing their usual game, nothing out of the ordinary that they're expecting here, and that's why they're 2-0.
Well, we're going to jump into the break shortly, but just to remind everyone what this match means for the other teams. British Hurricane winning puts them in first place of Group A, means they'll place the 4th seed tomorrow. But also, August and Hungary are now going to be 3rd, and Angry Titans are going to be 2nd just because of the way this works out. So we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, our analysts are going to break down the series so far.